All right, here we go. Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me? Welcome back. Another edition of not just Facebook Live, but live on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook as well. Thanks for everybody for being patient. Look, hey, it's 2023. These things happen, and that's all right. Claudette just asked. I'm gonna dive into this a little bit. She asked about a site for merch in the hoodie. I was going to wait a little bit to talk about it, but she baited me into it, and I appreciate that. Repping the hoodie tonight. I know so many have supported us, and I appreciate that. If you go to Keck for Kentucky, there is a full merch site where you can get everything from coffee mugs to hoodies to golf balls. Check it out. Support the cause. Represent our swag. Look, y'all, I'm pumped. It has been an incredible couple weeks where we're out answering questions. We've answered over 400 at this point in Jessamine County. A couple nights ago, I think we answered questions for 102 minutes straight, and we're listening. One of the beautiful things about this campaign is, we're answering questions, and I think it's important that you all, you know what I stand for, you know where I am on the issues. But I love to hear from Kentuckians, because when you ask a question, I then know what's important to you. And I think that's critical because we're learning a lot as we travel the state and as we hear from each of you. So thanks for playing a part. Thanks for joining us again tonight. If you haven't heard from the Keck campaign, we went from, one of the last in the race to fourth in fundraising. Baker, what's up, man? Old WKU guy. I appreciate that. Good to see you, man. We went from, last, if you will, fourth. A couple of the folks in front of us, we outraised them last quarter net, and we're excited. We're talking about things that matter. We're talking about the issues that are important to Kentuckians, and I love it. I get energy every single day from being with you all, from hearing from you all. There are some nights where I'm equally exhausted as I am exhilarated, but we get up the next morning and are excited to do it. We started today in Richmond, finished in Boyle County, and here we are. And we're still doing amazing work in our hometown, right? Somerset is on the move, and the progress is continuing here. As I've said many, many times, it is a blessing, an honor to lead and serve my hometown, and we want to take the progress that we've seen in Somerset statewide. I know that will be good for us here in Somerset, Pulaski County, the Lake Cumberland region, and across the Commonwealth. So many tuning in. I certainly appreciate it. Some other friends from college. Jamie says, let's put Kentucky back to work. That's central to our economic plans and the game plan. Evan T., good to see you. Couple people. Chris, thanks on the hoodies, no doubt. James, probably Jamie, not completely sure because I can't see the picture, but doing great work. Mayor, thank you. I'm encouraged by you all tuning in and being part of this, so thank you. I'm going to get right into these questions, right? One of the reasons that we're here is to answer questions that come in from keckforkentucky.com. We have promised you that we'll answer every question, and I haven't had a chance to read through all these tonight, but I did start, and the first one, there's some statements, and there's a lot of questions, but I think it's important. Callie S. took the time to ask a lot of questions. Candidly, some of them are really tough, but we're going to let it rip, and so we're going to start. Callie, thank you. I hope you're tuning in. If not, if you don't get the follow-up you want in a direct email, again, I hope you see this. She says, hello, Alan. A lot of your beliefs have intrigued me, and I'm heavily considering voting for you in May, but I have a few questions before I do. I have strong conviction that if abortion rights are to be taken away, women need to be protected considerably. What are your stances on increasing funding for women's health care? For example, increasing funding for all birth control to prevent unwanted pregnancy and making it readily available, and also helping mothers get what they need. Let me stop there. I mean, we do, birth control needs to be accessible for sure, but not so much so that sex becomes careless. Abstinence is absolutely the best form. I'm real to the extent that that's not always going to be the case, but we don't want to make it I guess, so in our face, if you will, for young people that sex then becomes casual. It was something that God created to be holy and to be special, and we don't want to diminish that while also managing the realities that we have in society. And so I respect your desire for it to be accessible and available. I just think that needs balanced with making sure we don't go too far too early. You continue to say, what is your stance on abortion if a woman was raped and doesn't want to raise the rapist's child? I'll stop there. That's a specific question. It's an area where candidly, Callie, my heart and my head aren't necessarily aligned. So many people in my life that I love and respect are pro-life without any exceptions. And in my heart, that's how I want to feel. In my head, as a father of 3 girls, I'm not at that place. And there's a chance my daughter's watching tonight, and so I'm going to be sensitive to that. She loves to get to watch Dad on these things, so I want to be careful with my words. I'll just say that there needs to be time in that instance to make a decision, and in the event of that level of horrific trauma, that has to be weighed. And in my head, that's where I am. I respect the position of those that are no exceptions, but also in that horrific event, I think there has to be some time given. You go on to say, should the penalty be a lot higher? In that instance, no question. I mean, I think it's horrific, and to me, it's in line with murder in ways worse, because I'm not going to say worse. It's awful, and for somebody to have to live with that after the fact that it's happened is just terrible. And look, as a society, the breakdown in the family and the turn from God leads to disasters like that. And it's a disgusting symptom of a larger problem, which is the breakdown of the family and the turn from God. And so we've got to be keenly aware of that. You ask, with law enforcement being funded, would sexual assault actions be quickly taken care of and justice given? Sure as heck should be. And I'll do everything in my power as governor to make sure that we act in that way. And then you said, would you consider adding all of these things to help women? If you look at our pro-family policies, not just our pro-life policies, and I want those that are watching to understand, I am unapologetically pro-life, a Christian conservative pro-life advocate. I do think we can do more for families, and that involves some of these things for women. You asked, what do you believe on taking care of veterans in Kentucky and the homeless population? We should take care of our vets. We need to make sure that their transitions go better, that they're not waiting in lines at VAs, and that we honor them for their sacrifice. Without this now volunteer group of people that are fighting for our freedoms, I don't have the right to do what I'm doing, and it wouldn't be protected. And so we're going to do everything we can to help our veterans, the veterans that are homeless. On the homeless population, it's really a balance. There's some that choose to live that way. I recognize there's some that don't. We need to identify those that want help and get it to them without enabling them. And I think that's really important. Just popped in on the chats. Chris, thank you for that comment. No question. I want you to hear me loud and clear on this too. I would never advocate or encourage someone to have an abortion. I want you to know that. All I'm saying is, in that event of a horrific crime, I think there needs to be some latitude, grace, and time given. There are options, and adoption and foster care is among them. And I think we need to do more for those families, for those that are willing to do it. It's another biblical principle to take care of the widows. If you don't know my wife, Tiffany, she does an amazing job of loving on widows and widowers, but also to take care of those that don't have a home. Orphans is the translation that I read in Scripture. And in that case, I want to say, Chris, thank you for doing what the Scripture asks us to do and adopting. And I love your comments on that. Brian, I'm going to try to come back to your question in a bit. I want to make sure I work through some of mine. So if I miss you, let me know. We'll come back to that. Callie goes on to ask, are you going to be able to help lower cost of things in Kentucky? Gas prices, maybe even rent cost, belief on minimum wage. Look, I'm careful. I don't make promises I can't deliver on. Can the governor of Kentucky lower gas prices? maybe over time based on domestic energy production and looking to leverage the resources we have in the Commonwealth. But I'm going to be sensitive not to overpromise. So I think what I would do is use my pulpit, if you will, to advocate for the resources that we have. Would it be a direct cost reduction? Not likely. I do think as we grow, we can continue the amazing quality of life and cost of living that we have here. We need more people in Kentucky paying into the system, and that would certainly help. You ask, what's the belief on raising the minimum wage and helping those in need? I don't think we need to raise the minimum wage at all, because we don't have hardly anybody in Kentucky making that. If you look at the entry-level wages just in our community, and we're not likely to be at the top. If you look at Kentucky, you're looking at $12 or $13 an hour. Now the market has corrected itself, and so I don't think the minimum wage is a factor any longer, at least in this economy where 162,000 jobs or so are available in Kentucky. Robert L. asked, who do you think you would pick for the adjutant general for the Kentucky Army National Guard? Love that question. Here's what I'm going to tell you is I have some friends that have served a long time, retired from the Guard. I'm going to lean on them for counsel, meet with the existing leadership, and find a consensus pick. I don't have someone in mind at the moment, Robert, but I'll seek a lot of counsel before making that decision, and it'll be counsel from those that have served and that know. Dwight T. asked, hey, I love this question, man. How can I help? I'm going to tell you the same thing I close each one of my town halls, meet and greets, fundraisers: time, talent, treasure. You can give of your time if you want to volunteer. Go to keckforkentucky.com, volunteer, write letters, stamp envelopes, knock doors, put out signs, make phone calls when we have these town halls. There are a lot of ways to help. If you volunteer, we're getting ready to connect with you all next week. We're going to have a call. There's so many across the state that have asked to be a part of our mission and what we're doing, be a part of the game plan. I would love, Dwight, for you to connect with us online. The second thing is use your talent. And folks ask, what does a talent look like in a campaign? That's your network. That's your sphere of influence. And you can utilize that to help us. You might know people we don't know. You can host a town hall, host a meet and greet, get us in front of folks that haven't heard about our game plan. And then finally is give of your treasure. If you're blessed with some resources, finances, you can give that at keckforkentucky.com too, or send a check. I'd be honored if you would do any of the three. Rebecca C. says, what are the three major priorities for our state? She suggested infrastructure, education, maybe healthcare. All three good ones. I'm going to tell you that, my priorities are growth, public safety, and education, and centered around pro-family policies. So we've got a growth problem. We're not growing at the level of our neighbors. In fact, we just left the second slowest decade in 100 years. And we have a workforce crisis, which is a part of that growth. We're 48th, 49th. Best case, we've been 45th, 46th in workforce participation. That's terrible. It's not good enough. It's not acceptable. So that's number one. Public safety, huge issue. Kentucky statistically has never been more unsafe. In our major cities, we're experiencing more violent crime than ever before. And we have to support men and women in law enforcement in word and deed. We've got to back the badge, not just the blue. Men and women of fire, police, EMS, corrections, and our veterans. Thank you, veterans. Look, again, as I mentioned, without that sacrifice, I don't get to do this freely. And look around the world. America stands alone in so many ways, and our volunteer military is a major reason why. For those in the greatest generation and before that were drafted, they were still willing to die for their country. And such a special place. We've got to stand up for all of them. And then finally, in education, we need to do better. Whether that's in public school, private school, homeschooling, we've got to raise the bar across Kentucky, make sure our kids have the very best opportunities to be trained, educated, and stay here to work. Next one is from Mayor Billy Phillips. Hey, Mayor. Thank you for coming to Butler and Morgantown last week. Pleasure seeing you and look forward to working with you in the future. Hey, amen, man. Always good to see you and appreciate your encouragement. I know it's not a question, but heck, thanks for your service, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Looks like we've got 5 or 6 more, and then I'll take a few questions online. Christopher R. says, I'm a former Somerset police officer. Thanks for that service. And service-connected disabled veteran in Kentucky. If elected governor, what would you do to enhance veteran services for Kentucky? It seems right now veterans in Kentucky are not given priority as they were in the past that can be controlled on the state level. It's been years since a veteran has been able to request information from the Kentucky Department of VA and get critical information in a timely manner. Former and future President, according to Chris, Trump instituted a federal hotline for veterans to call if they were having trouble with the Department of Veteran Affairs on a federal level. So will you constitute something like this at the state level? Critically needed, and it would be appreciated. I love that idea, the veteran hotline. I think that's great. Here's what I'm going to tell you: is we're going to commission a group of veterans, both from the Guard and also active duty, that will help us with this, and we're going to listen. Chris is what I would tell you. Christopher, excuse me. I want to call you by the name that you submitted. I think that's a trait that has been lost among many leaders, is the ability to listen. Scripture tells us to be slow to speak, slow to anger, and quick to listen. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to assemble experts in every cabinet. And as we look to take better care of our vets in Kentucky specifically, I think it's critical that we listen to those that have served. And so the advice that you just gave will be weighed and given a lot of merit. And then we'll talk with others who have done the exact same thing. Bonnie says, how are you doing? Hey, I love it, Bonnie. I'm great. I hope you're doing good too. As I said earlier, these are a blast. They're exhausting, but more than exhausting, they're exhilarating. They're fun, and I love hearing from folks. Just heard from Jamie Mosley here. I'm going to try to check back in. If you don't know Mr. Mosley, an exceptional jailer and leader in East Kentucky, somebody that absolutely loves the people of Laurel County and his district in Kentucky. So I'm going to get back to that. I'm not going to read the question yet. Richard B. says, are you a Trump supporter? Now, that's a loaded question, if you will. Here's what I'm going to tell you is, President Trump did a lot of good, and some of his policies really put America on a great trajectory. I'm also a believer that there is a time and a season, and I think it's a season for a new generation of leaders, Richard. I really do. While the president did a lot of good, I think the country's hungry for this next wave. I do love the work of Governor DeSantis, Governors Youngkin, Governors Noem. I liked the work of Governor Hogan. And so, what I'm looking to do is make sure that I stay focused on Kentucky issues. And while absolutely the issues going on in Washington affect us, I can't fall into the trap or the paralysis as we look, a couple years into the future in that presidential. I'm focused on right now, right here in the Commonwealth. Making Somerset an amazing place to live, making Kentucky an amazing place to live and work. And somebody in this election is going to have to win this nomination, beat Andy Beshear, and then put Kentucky on a trajectory where we do a lot better. And I'm not going to wait around for crumbs from Washington to save us. I'm sick of that, and I think we're better than that. And so whoever the president is in a couple years, I'm going to work with to make sure we get stuff done. Doug H. says, hey, buddy, no questions. Just wanted to give you my support. Well, I appreciate that. You've done amazing things for this town, and I can't wait to see you as our governor. Hey, well, I'm glad that one still made it on. I appreciate that. Looks like I've got 2 more, and then I'm going to take several from the chat. And so if you have questions, now would be a good opportunity to start. Justin R. says, what exactly is your game plan for all the overcrowding in jails and prisons? Couple thoughts there as I wait to answer a question from a jailer. First thing is, folks that are getting overcharged and staying in jail for a long time for nonviolent crimes, small possession crimes, they need to get out and get back to work. And criminals need to stay in jail for a long time. So that's one. Second thing is the state needs to hold up to their responsibility. Some of these jails are going to bankrupt counties if we're not careful. And, it's a state responsibility. The counties help facilitate it. When appropriate, we need to fund and build newer and bigger jails. But, America is the most jailed population in the world. And so, again, let's don't always look at the symptom. Let's look at the root of the problem here in Kentucky. It's a lack of hope and opportunity. When we're 48th in fiscal stability, 48th in median income, 44th in health care, 48th or 49th in workforce participation, man, we're getting our butts kicked. And so people turn to things like drugs and crime, because they don't have hope and opportunity. And so we've got to do better. And then we won't need bigger jails. We've got to train our kids sooner. If you didn't know, and I did until recently, Justin, that jail populations and jail sizes are built based off of fourth grade literacy levels, don't you think we should train our kids to read better? Start sooner? Invest in them earlier? That's where I'm at. Again, criminals need to stay in jail. Those that are ready to get back, let's put them to work, and let's start kicking some butt. And it starts with a holistic approach, and what we have been doing isn't working. And so it's time to elect a change agent who can build teams and get things done. Last question on my Keck for Kentucky questions, and then I'm going to go to the chat, comes from Robin D. And it says, how will your upbringing and dedication in South Central Kentucky expand to include and lead all our state into a brighter future? I appreciate that question, Robin. And, what I'll say is this, that there's some really quality candidates in this race. They're quality people. But what there isn't in this race is another change agent who has a history of solving tough problems, building teams, and getting complex things done. And we've done that in Somerset. If you look at some of the things that are going to be discussed over the next 4 or 5 months, year, a lot of these candidates will tell you what they think. They'll tell you what they hope to do or plan to do. And we can tell you exactly what we've done. Let's look at public safety. Well, I back the blue. Do you really? Have you put $1 million into a police budget when the rest of the world was screaming to defund the police? We've done that. Did you add firefighters back into the state incentive? Did you repair an EMS building that had been in default, if you will, for 12 years and add new equipment? We've done all those things. We didn't just talk about it. When so many said downtowns are dying and you can only invest in certain areas and you're not going to get big jobs or new employers in a small town in southern eastern Kentucky, we did that. And what I would tell you, Robin, is that the proof is in the pudding. And back to Scripture, you should be known by your fruit. And when I talk about this race, I want people to look at the fruit of these leaders and these candidates and just see who has the best track record of getting things done. And when folks will look at that, I really like our chances. So with that, I'm gonna go to the chat for a little bit, and we'll start answering some questions. So I'm gonna go back to. I appreciate that comment, Jamie. You mentioned new businesses in Pulaski. We're absolutely rocking. I want to go back to Mr. Mosley. The governor recently gave a long overdue raise to state troopers. I agree with that. The law enforcement landscape has shifted in recent decades where a majority of counties, local police, and sheriffs have become primary law enforcement presence. What's your thoughts on finding a way to supplement the pay of these local agencies in order for them to remain competitive? I do think the state has a role. We've talked about adding to the CLEP funding or finding other unique ways for the state to make sure we contribute. I'm blessed here. We've got an amazing PD. Our sheriff's department has good leadership and is doing a good job. One of the things that we're a supporter of, and this is going to be unique in this race, I am supporting medical marijuana. And one of the ways that I want to take any revenue generated from that is back to local law enforcement agencies. And so, again, you fund the things that are important to you. And so if you look at the Keck game plan, it's going to be things like early education, support for law enforcement and emergency services. And we've spelled that out. We've told Kentucky what we plan to do. If we do look, and I think there's a question on gaming coming up, we want to take any revenue from gaming, new revenue from gaming, and put it to teacher pay and school safety. I think school safety is something that's critical. And we're not going to wait and talk about it after a tragedy. We're going to do something about it before it's a problem again. I don't want to wait and have to make a phone call to somebody who's lost a loved one. Let's do something that we can now with resources and technology and make sure that my kids come home every day and so do yours. And so I absolutely appreciate that question, and we can do all we can. Claudette says, yes, invest in our kids sooner. We need parents to parent so teachers can teach and children will learn. Yeah, amen. I'm just going to say amen. It does start at home. Here's a couple other questions coming in. Jamie asked, what's my thoughts on gambling in Kentucky? Would you consider allowing casinos? Here's another one where I'm going to break from the traditional party lines and say, we have been public about our willingness and desire to support sports gaming. And this is rooted not because I think gambling is necessarily good or healthy. It's because it's already here. We have the lottery. We have the Derby. We have Keeneland. We now have HHR, which is slot machines guised as whatever. And so we already have casinos here. And people don't like to hear that. But if you drive on the interstate and you see come to the Mint, and I'm not begrudging the Mint. I'm just saying that they're here. So we already have them. Why not capture all the revenue that we can and put it in things that matter like teacher pay and school safety? Ramsey asked, what's your thoughts on the Kentucky pension system and keeping it funded along with bringing back the 20-year hazardous duty? Ramsey, in my heart, I wish we could, man. I understand, and I love men and women who serve, but it's not sustainable. People are living longer, and so folks that work 20 years that get paid for another 40, it just can't happen. But I want you to hear me, and that anybody that's on that system and they've been made a promise for 20 years, we have to honor it. We're going to honor our promises with Alan Keck as governor, but we're also not going to make promises we can't keep. And I think that's the biggest distinction is you can't say something to do something else. Anybody that's tier 1, tier 2 that has that promise will find a way. We, now with tier 3 are getting back into a sustainable situation. The next challenge for us is how are we going to recruit and retain retain new officers, new teachers without that pension system. That's the next hurdle. We're getting this system in order, if you will, but I am worried about, new folks that might not work the 25 years. But life expectancy used to be 62 to 65. Now it's 77. That's an extra 12 to 15 years that you'd be paying a pension that you weren't planning on when some of these programs were instituted. And it's just not financially viable. And while I don't like that, and I recognize 25 years is tough, I'm not going to try to placate or lie to you. That's just the facts, the math, the math has to work. And so that's where we are. Jacob Singleton asked, what's my position on school choice? I'm going to take, 3 or 4 after Jacob if y'all want to keep rocking. I have no idea how many are watching tonight. Just like I say when we go talk to folks across the state, I don't care if it's 1, 2, 20, or 200, we're going to do this. And so to all those that are paying attention tonight, watching what we're doing, I appreciate that. And, let's keep rocking, share these live streams, tell your friends to pay attention and ask questions. To school choice, Jacob, I think we've been fed a lie for a long time from the left on this issue, in that they say that you can't be for school choice and mobility for the kid and be for public schools. And I just don't buy that. My kids go to public school. Tiffany went to public school. I went to public school. I adore the teachers that are teaching my kids. My kids adore them. I took Olivia to school this morning. She was talking about some of her teachers, and she loves them. They love her. But I'm also not going to apologize if I want to know what she's being taught, if I want to sit at the table with the school board to understand the curriculum and what's being taught in the school. It's an area where we've got to get involved. I did love that Governor DeSantis endorsed, 19 school board members. I thought it was critical because he was basically saying how important these school boards are, site-based decision boards, how important they are. Get involved. Look, I'm running for governor. It's a big job. It's an important job. And so is your school board, who's going to hire a superintendent, who's going to hire principals. And, with that, I would just challenge and encourage you all to pay a lot of attention and make sure that you understand what's going on. And so I'm for school choice, but that doesn't mean I'm against public school or public school teachers, in spite of what we've been told for a generation. I'm going to grab my phone because I lost my chat, and I said I'd answer a couple other questions. I want to try to do that tonight. See if I can find it. Any other questions, folks? I think I've got it pulled up on my phone. So if you have one or two, fire away. Tiffany Keck is watching. Thank you, love. Happy Spouses Day. There's so many of these days. I'm probably a bad husband in that I miss them from time to time. But I love you a lot, and thanks for being amazing. Other questions? Am I missing any? Is anybody seeing any? Y'all like the hoodie? Give me some thumbs up if y'all like the hoodie. There's a heart. One little heart. I like the hoodie. Super comfortable. The man, Ryan Lemon from KSR. Bunch of thumbs up. That's what I'm talking about. If you like the hoodie, you want to go to Keck for Kentucky, find our merch site. We got lots of good stuff there. It is mega comfortable. I hope the one we're selling online is as comfortable as the one I'm wearing. Chris asked, Alan, your plate is full, and I fully support your pursuit. Oh, your plate is full in support of running for governor. I support that. How will you maintain your leadership as mayor? I have great concerns about our homeless situation. Let's still be a part of an ad hoc task force. Yeah, for sure. I get that question a lot. We've built an amazing team here. I've got amazing department heads, a great city council whose eyes and ears. And, you know, because of this, we're still plugged in every day. I'm almost embarrassed by my screen time, but I'm on my phone a lot. And we're taking care of the issues. I'm still very engaged leading this city. You know, I'm not checked out by any means, and we're going to continue to rock. The trains are not just going to stay on time. They're going to keep chugging and chugging well. Progress is not going to slow down. I think you all have seen that. There will be no noticeable dip or regression because guess what? I've got a sworn duty to this community. I take that very, very seriously. And while it's a fair question, I'm never going to put that to the side. I just work a lot. 12, 13, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I'm honored to do that. I'm thankful to do it. Nobody made me run for governor. I chose to do this. And with that, it's important that I work hard enough to make sure that we're doing the job that you all as citizens of Somerset and Pulaski County deserve. Thank you for the question. Any others? If not, I might get a decent night's sleep tonight. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I hope some new folks joined us. Watt, thanks a ton, man. Jamie K, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for the questions tonight and comments as well. Give a round of applause to the video team getting this thing rocking on all three platforms. Jeff, Steph, thank you from Casey County and Campbellsville. You guys have been amazing friends and supporters early on. I'm going to close with that, actually, so I'm not going to look at any more comments. I'm going to use them as an example. You know, this campaign needs pioneers and not just settlers. And I take that from a good friend of mine. If he's watching, he'll know what I'm talking about. But we knew this was going to be a challenge when we jumped into this race, and nothing easy or nothing worth accomplishing is easy. And if you've ever sort of had that fire in your belly, if you will, for something, you got to go after it. And that's where we're at. And we're asking folks to be a part of that. We're asking folks to give sacrificially of time, talent, and treasure, leverage resources. Be willing to have that tough conversation with another candidate and say, look, we love you. You're our friend, but, we believe in Alan. We want to help Alan. We think that he'll make the best governor. I'm going to actually close with this very thing. I have had countless folks say, without a shadow of a doubt, you're the best candidate. You'll make the best governor, and you'll be best for Kentucky. But, and then it's not an excuse. It's fair, but I've known so-and-so for 20 years. So-and-so is really connected to another elected official who could cause me harm. Enough of that. Let's do what's right for Kentucky. If you're watching tonight, it's because you care a lot, just like I do. And you want this to be a better place for you, your family, your future family, your church. You want the freedoms that maybe for too long we've taken for granted in this country. You want those to be preserved. I get asked a lot about the Second Amendment. I always say that without protecting that one, none of the other ones are ever going to be protected. And we need a governor who's going to stand up for those things, but also listen when people disagree. They're going to bring people together on these challenges that have plagued us for generations. Because here's the truth. Kentucky's not winning anymore. When I say Kentucky wins, it's not a talking point. We've got to start winning again. Because if we're not growing, we're dying, and that's the nature of the state. Tennessee, Ohio, Indiana, they're kicking our butt. And I've had enough of it. We said, when I ran for mayor, we said that Somerset would stop taking a back seat to anybody in the region. And we would start to win again. And guess what? We did. We built a great team. We listened to our community. We started to execute. And I'm just going to tell you, Kentucky should take a back seat to nobody in this region. I want Texas, Florida, and the other states to also start wondering what in the world is going on in the Commonwealth. What's happening in Kentucky? And I just tell you, I think unequivocally that's possible. And so I'm going to ask you to be a pioneer with me. Join me as we march up the hill. Take that flag and march up the hill with me, and let's get this done. It will be a worthy cause. There'll be great relationships built, and special things can happen when a few people believe. I hope you'll do that. I hope you'll consider joining me on this mission. We'll have a blast, and I can assure you there'll be a life change on the way. I pray for each of you that are tuning in. I pray for Kentucky, Somerset, and I wish you Godspeed and God bless. Thanks.